The new school year is quickly approaching, and it can mean some big challenges for students, but teachers as well.
And today we're kicking off our Let's Talk series. It's a back to school series where we speak to licensed therapists to help facilitate conversations about mental health, not only for students, but teachers as well. Today we have child and family therapist April Patton and adult trauma-based therapist Ashley Young joining us with some great tips.
They are indeed. Ladies, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my mind around the fact that school is just a few weeks away, so I'm going to go ahead and admit up front, this is partially for me. But
Yeah.
Parents, we're really focusing on the teachers today. We want to start with what teachers are walking into emotionally, right? Some of them have actually been working over the summer, but the school year grind is a little bit different. So Ashley, how can they ease back into this transition of the day-to-day classroom grind?
Yeah, so it is important for teachers to even though they may have been doing this for years, whether they're seasoned or brand new teachers, that to be able to set routines and set expectations to check in with themselves. Sometimes even at Everyday Wellness, we may pair up and say, how are we doing this week? You know,
Yeah.
It's helpful for teachers to maybe find a buddy, find a pal to say, hey, can we kind of set parameters to kind of check in with each other to see how we're doing? And so that's also helpful. Another thing is to set routines for themselves. Maybe they create a to-do list. I know most teachers are very organized, but it may be helpful to see it in writing and create it on a day-to-day basis. So those are just some tips that maybe a teacher could utilize to help prepare themselves.
Ashley, you just mentioned those check-ins, emotional check-ins. You gave an example of how that works, but April, I want to ask you the benefits of that. Sometimes we're in the South and it's just a courteous thing to do, but how can that really help someone that has the grind of a teacher?
Yeah, absolutely. Taking that moment to be mindful and check in with ourselves is really a helpful tool, especially for teachers as they're getting back into that routine. And speaking of routines, one really easy way to do that is to really bake it into your routine. So maybe once or twice a day throughout the day, making it part of your routine to check in with yourself. How is my body feeling? How is my mind feeling? Emotionally, how am I doing?
And you know what? I don't think a lot of people realize this, but teaching can also be a bit isolating. Some of the other tips, normalize that peer support. How can teachers build community without, this is the other thing, they always feel like, okay, now you're giving me one more thing to do.
Yeah.
So how can teachers really build that sense of community?
Yeah, I think honestly, it kind of can come natural, right? Like just trying to build connections with those around us. If you find yourself really getting along with a certain coworker, maybe like going out of your way to say, hey, can we maybe like exchange numbers or get coffee in the morning, or I can bring you a coffee and then we can maybe get dinner after work, like that kind of thing. Building those natural connections and then using that as your check-in system.
That's
I think
a good idea.
That's really good too. Yeah, boundaries.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yes,
We
boundaries.
teach that to students and young children a lot about boundaries. But what about for teachers? That seems especially hard. But what's that first step they can take to create boundaries without isolating themselves?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's good to have some boundaries in mind. For example, I think we talked about this or you shared this, but you may cut off an email time. Maybe I won't check any emails after 6 o'clock, or maybe when I get home before I interact with my own family, that maybe I just need some time to just decompress, maybe toss away the day, and so I can be refocused on my kids. So I think it's helpful to have 1 or 2 boundaries in place to implement, especially week 1, week 2, and you can always adjust as time goes on.
And you know what, Ashley, I think it's so important to differentiate between time management and boundary management, because we're all working with the same amount of time, right?
Right.
And it's so easy to get overwhelmed, but if you do a better job of managing those boundaries, it teaches other people how to respect those boundaries.
It does. We're surprised by how many people can respond well to our boundaries, and the onus is on us to kind of implement them, and people can adapt
And
to
let's talk
respect
about
them.
Confidence too. Confidence can take a hit, especially when you're in tough times. You have a lot to do. Maybe you are not getting a passing grade with all your students like you want to. What's your advice for building that confidence up day to day, building it back up?
Absolutely. So there is an idea of celebrating these micro wins, right? So this is kind of documenting, like you got a positive parent email or a student that was struggling did really well today, right? So you can do that by keeping a little journal if that serves you well, or you can do it by keeping a little whiteboard, but either way, making it this visual kind of practical thing to look at to say, okay, I'm making progress.
And Ashley, you also talk about book ending routines. Explain to us what you mean.
Yeah, so a book ending routine is there's a routine that you start at the beginning of the day, which could be a deep breathing exercise, but then also at the end of the day. That's the book end. And so that means that maybe I may journal. One of the journal prompts could be, what were my thorns this today, and what were my roses, right? The things that were good and that were bad, so that you can process that each day. And so that can vary between person to person, but starting your day with one and ending your day with one is a bookend routine.
That's good.
All right, we want to end this evening on a positive note as we wrap up. One final message of encouragement for teachers before they step back in to the classroom. And April, we'll start with you.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's just really having that mindset of like, this is going to be a good year, and knowing that it's okay to enforce some of those boundaries and kind of be ready for those transitions, and knowing that like it's okay that it might be a little bit hard at first, but that things are going to smooth out.
And Ashley, can I adjust yours a little bit in terms of, you know, I think teachers have so many demands on them, and they deal with so many different personalities, from administration to parents. How can they better manage expectations? What guidance do you want to give them about, again, setting those parameters and boundaries before they ease back into their routine?
Yeah, I think it's helpful for them to remember they can't be all things to everyone. And so operating within the area of control, and then releasing the things that you can't, and then maybe redirecting that to their appropriate parties, and then also asking for help.
Yeah.
Advocating for yourself is so important.
That is so important. Well, listen, this was a wonderful way to kick off our Back to School series. We're not trying to rush it, everyone. These are some suggested affirmations. And look, as Ashley said, and as April said, you can think of your own, but I bring calm into the classroom. I'm doing my best, and that is enough.
I like that.
One small win at a time. And this is kicking off a series. Again, we don't want to rush it getting back for the school year, but we do want you to be prepared. We want you to feel calm and resilient and ready for success, to go back to school, not back to burnout. How about that? So we'll have another segment.
That was good.
You like that one? You like that?
Yeah,
All
that
right.
was good.
So we'll see you back here with more of the experts, by the way, from Everyday Wellness. They'll be with us every Monday. You can find Everyday Wellness on all social media platforms and their office in the Vista. Ashley, thanks to you and your team for all that you do.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate the support.
Thank you so much, ladies. We'll be right back.